Hi and welcome to a very cool tutorial about one of the great new iOS 8 features called extensions. In this tutorial we're going to focus our efforts on today extensions. That means extensions that are appearing within the notification center. So in this tutorial, we're going to use an app that we have created in a previous tutorial called Swiffer. And Swiffer is a cool little app that mimics the abilities of Twitter, and you can write just something like tweets, which we call sweets, and basically here you can see the list of sweets that are already in the app or on the server. We are storing these messages and use the user profiles. We're storing them in a cloud service called Parse, and in this tutorial, we're going to focus on getting the data from our app, getting the most recent sweets into the notification center. So whenever you are on your home screen, just browsing through the photos, and you think, let's see what the users just tweeted. So you just open the notification center. And have a look. Okay, here, hello extension, click on it, and our app gets opened. So before we get started, just a quick info where you get this this demo app. So you could go to the iOS and Swift beginner tutorial remote push notification to get the most recent tutorial files. Just download them, open them, and you're good to start. And of course, there is a finished project below this video description, also a starter project. So, Apple provides you with an app extension programming guide, which will explain in detail how extensions work. I'm going to outline some of the most important aspects here. First of all, you should know that today extensions, and most of all extensions, are view controllers. So everything you know about view controllers also apply to extensions. An extension is not really part of your app. It has, for example, its own entitlements, its own view controller, its own storyboard, and so on. So that means that you have to work with these extensions very different from what you may have known about communication regarding notifications or anything like that. That means, for example, that you cannot just access on the data of your app. Let's say we would have stored data in a core data database, or you have saved images to your documents directory of your app. You can't access them from the extension, because as you can see here, a user chooses an app extension, for example, our today extension, and the system launches then the app extension, and there is really no real connection between your hosting app and the extension itself. And then the app extension code runs, and when you're finished running the extension, it's killed. So it's basically a completely different process. So how do we get to work with this, and how do we can connect our app with the today extension? So let me open up Xcode and first explain you how to create an extension. This is actually the easiest part of it. Just access your project, and let's add a new target, which you can do by clicking this plus symbol in this corner. And all we need to do now is, under iOS, select Application Extension, and we want to create a Today extension. Say Next, and we're going to call it Swiffer Today, and it's going to be in Swift in our project and embedded in the application Swiffer app. So say Finished. And we do not want to activate the Swiffer Today scheme. So click Cancel here, because we want to build and run our app, not the Today scheme. So And now you can see that there is a new folder, Swiffer Today, and located in this folder are a Swift file and a new storyboard. And we are going to use this storyboard and another class to realize what you've just seen in the simulator. So when I bring this up, you can see that we actually have a tail view controller here, and this is obviously no tail view controller. There is just a hello world label in it, and we will just remove this whole view controller and bring up the sidebar here and put in a completely new table view controller. And we will then say, well, we want to, in here, what's this called? It's the show the size inspector, and we will say we want to freeform with a width of 320 and let's just say 200 pixels in height. That's actually enough. And the second thing we're going to do is giving this this tail view prototype cell a identifier, a reuse identifier, because this is necessary in order for our app to work. Actually, this warning you get here is because there is no a reusable identifier, and we just call that cell so that we can later use it within our code. And as you can see, the warning has just disappeared. All right, and also here we have got the implementation of a UI view controller, so let's just get rid of that and delete this one, move it to trash, and let's create a new class, new file, and this is going to be a Cocoa Touch class, and this is going to be the today but not view controller. We're changing the subclass off and calling UI table view controller, language Swift, say next. And now it's important that the target isn't Swiffer app, it must be Swiffer Today, our extension. Because as I mentioned, and why do we need a bridging header? Let's say cancel for here. Because maybe I've selected the wrong one. No, Cocoa Touch class. Today. Your table view controller, Swift, and create. Actually, I don't understand why we are asked for a bridging header right now, but we are going to need one, so let's just create it. And there we have our basic implementation of a table view controller. Nice. And why actually do we need this bridging header? Well, as I told you, this is a completely different bundle than our real app, which is here. So when we have a look at the linked frameworks, for example, then you can see that the linked frameworks here are not in this, that they are not existent here. There's just a notification center framework, actually. So, in order for us to use parse with within our extension, we also have to import parse to this extension. So, let's see where we put parse here, and here it is. And let's say show in Finder, and there it is. And now we will also bring it to the Swiffer Today. And there we will say destination, copy app items if needed, and also add to target Swiffer Today and say finish. And then we have parse within here. And as you can see, and you can also read that within the parse quick start guide, that when you create a new app, let's say data, mobile, iOS, Objective-C, existing project, then you can see at this point which libraries have to be linked with your project. So actually we have to do just the same thing here as well. So let's go to Swiffer Today, and also add all of these frameworks. And I will accelerate the video here because it's quite boring. So see you in a second. All right, this looks like I have just imported all the necessary frameworks and linked them with our new target Swiffer Today. And now we are actually ready to get started using our new table view controller in our, that is part of our today extension. So let's dive into this table view controller, and the first thing we are going to have to do is import the notification center framework, because actually this is done by when you use the template, but you have to import it yourself when you create your custom view controller class, so notification center. And as I told you a second ago, we are going to need this bridging header, and we will import in this bridging header the parse framework. We're just writing parse/parse.h. We have done the same thing here. And because it is a different, it is actually a completely different project we're working in, we have to do this again. So as well, and because of that, we also, when we have a look at view.load, we have to make sure that that our app is connected with the correct parse project. So what we have done in the app delegate here, using the parse set application ID and so on, we just have to copy that and go into our today table view controller and paste it in the view.load, so that this so that parse also knows that this is part of our app as well. So we just have this error because the compiler isn't aware of the content of our bridging header. So let me build that, and the error should go away, and it does. And what we also have to do is, since we now use this today extension, and Apple calls them widgets, we also have to adopt the NC widget providing protocol. And this protocol, I will come to that in a second. But for now, let's just adopt it. And when you have a look at the notification center, you see that the colors are very transparent, and that there isn't really a big white space here, but the table view actually is. So the first thing we want to do after setting our connecting our app with parse, we actually want to remove the background of our table view. So let's call the table view and say background color. And we will set the background color to UIColor.clearColor. And what we also need to do is actually updating the size of our widget, of our extension, according to the specifications of the table view, or the height of our 3 table view cells that are going to be displayed. So let's create a variable up here and call it preferred view height, which is a CG float. And let's use some new parse features here and just return 132, which is the height of 3 table view cells. And the reason why I did not just assign 132 is to show you that you could also calculate here a little bit, and for example include a show more button, which would then if you've clicked on that, you could calculate the new preferred height. But we will keep it simple here and just return 132. And we will also write a function which will update actually our extension view. So let's write this function, which is called update size. And what it does is actually it gets the preferred size of the extension, preferred size, and we get that by calling self.preferred content size. And we will then only access the height of this preferred size and set this to self-preferred preferred view height, and then reset the preferred content size to the preferred size. Well, actually, that's it so far, and we will call this function right when the view did load for the first time. So actually, view did load gets called only one time, or when you restart your iPhone, or when there are actually not that many situations. More frequently, what is called when you're dealing with the extensions is the view will appear method, which we will now use actually for two things. The first thing is reloading. No, first we will call super view will appear animated. And the first thing we want later on is actually our table view to be reloaded and also update our size. So after this is done, we have actually the basic setup of all of the complete extension, and what we will do now is setting up the table view by using the delegate methods here. And we just have one section in our table view, and we hard code the number of items that we want to display to 3, which is actually enough to see the newest suites that are just suited from other users. And what we also, and this is the interesting part actually, what we also need is a delegate method, which is coming from the NC widget providing protocol. And what this delegate method does, and I'm going to bring it right here and show you a little trick here for structuring your code. When you remember pragma mark of Objective-C to get your code in this outline view structured using these headlines, you can now use /mark colon and a dash to make your own headlines. And I'm just writing here widget delegate. And as you can see now, we have the widget delegate here, but this is not a widget delegate. Let me just bring that to the bottom. And the widget delegate is actually called widget perform update with completion handler. And what this does is actually when you open it again, then I highly recommend that every time you open the widget, you actually call the table view reload data method and tell then the completion handler, which is nc update result dot new data. And this actually tells the extension that it should redraw itself. And this is really, really useful because otherwise your data won't update itself when you don't use this widget perform update with completion handler method. So this is actually one of the most important pieces of code that we can write in this table view controller, except of course for our self-row at index path method, which will hold the most the greatest part of our program logic, since we want to display all our data in our table view. And when you remember, when we have created our table view, our reuse identifier was not reuse identifier, it was cells. So let's enter this here. It's all part of the standard implementation of the table view controller. And what we're going to do now is we need to write some parse code. And when you're not familiar how to do that, just have a look at the tutorials in which we create Swiffer, and you will see all of that in detail here. So first thing we have to do is actually find our suites in our online database in the cloud. So let's define a query, a PF query. Let's call it find timeline data, and this is actually a PF query, and with a PF query with a class name of suites. And actually, we want to find all of the items now. So let's say find timeline data, find objects in background with block. And the closure, we are going to use a closure here. So opening, closing curly braces. And now within parentheses, we will give the this method all the parameters that it requires, and this is one for the first parameter. It's called objects, and this is an array of any objects, and we will directly unwrap it. And we also have an error, which is an NS error, also unwrap it, and this this doesn't return anything, so void in, and now we can just build it, see that we made no mistakes, and can now implement the main logic. So if there was no error in fetching all the data from our parse database, then we can create a result array, which will then store, which is an NS mutable array, which will store all the objects that we get from the from our database. So we create a for loop and iterate through all the objects that we have received here, and so we have to create a p of object here for every object. So let me call that just object, p of object. And this is our object as p of object. And we need to do this because what we have here is an any object. So, and we have to cast this every time to a p of object in order to read the data from it that we actually need. So let's now add this this object to our result array, and then we can use our result array to sort all the suites that we've got, because they are saved in with the newest ones actually are at the bottom of our list, so we have just to reverse all of our objects. So let's create an array and use our result array and call the reverse object enumerator, and do this for all objects. And then we can just reassign the array as NS mutable array. And now the actual interesting part begins, because we now can create a suite, which is a p of object, and we can then access our result array, take any object at index, and use now the index path dot row parameter from our self row at index path method in order to get the proper suite for the proper cell in our extension. So we have to cast it to a p of object, and now we can create a string. Let me call it content string, which will then store the content of the suite, which is actually the same thing as a tweet on Twitter. And we use object for key, and the key is content. So if you have a look at parse, we have the Swiffer app, data browser, and as you can see, we have suites, and the content is actually the text that is stored within our entries within our suite. So because of that, we have used the content as key, and we cast this to a string. And all we have to do now is set the text cell.text label.text to this string, content string. All right. And after we have done that, we could also and that we also do here at the top. We recolor our cell text label dot text color and say this is going to be your color white color, because as I told you, black isn't looking that good in the notification center. Now, some basic tips. When I tried to implement these this extension for this example, I came across some strange problems, and this has something to do with the performance that is required of your app, of your code within the extension. If you're going to display data, the data has to be cached or asynchronously loaded from the internet or from iCloud or whatever you're going to use. And so what's working best, what I've experienced until now, is actually not doing a specific loading method or anything like that. Just call all the data as you need it, just in time, and this gives you, I think, a very good result when handling these extensions and downloading content from web services. So as we have done that, I think there are just two things missing that we need to think about. The first thing is also giving our cells a clear background, so we can just use the table view. Will display cell, I think. Will display cell for row at index path. This is not a bad place for that. And now access our cell and its layer property and set its background color to UI color, clear color, and this has to be a CG color in order to work. And now let's just build it and have a quick look. So run the application, and there we are. Yeah, that is not so cool, because as you can see, in the time I have just recorded this tutorial, you can see that there someone has just created a new user or two or whatever, and the app crashes because we haven't implemented any method for handling it if there is no profile image specified. So when you're going to use this code and you plan to experiment a little with it, just create yourself a parse account. It's completely free, and then set the settings here, the application ID and the client key. Put in your personal keys and into your app delegate, and now in this example into our extension. And if we now going forward and delete all of those entries, delete those suites, then we can just rerun it, rerun the application. And let me just log out, and I'm going to create a new user, which is user 123, sign up. And the important thing is that we select an image here, and now we can just post some suites. Suite 1 for extension, suite 2 for extension. And the reason why you're not seeing anything here is suite 3 extension. The reason why you're not seeing anything here is because we have implemented a solution in the last tutorial that gave you the opportunity to reload the all the suites using remote push notifications. And since the simulator does not support push notifications, you can see those suites first when you actually reload it, but there you can see there are these suites. And now let's just go to the home screen and pull the notification center down. And this is actually my demo app for you to show this, so let me just remove that. And as you can see, here is our new Swiffer Today extension with this blue dot, and let me click on plus and click done. And you see nothing. So why do we see nothing? Actually, it has to do with the storyboard, which we have forgotten, because we have forgotten to connect our TailView controller with the Today TailView controller Swift file. So let's just do that really quickly, clicking on the view controller and say that we want to connect this with Today TailView controller. All right, and if we now run the app again, and we don't need to log in, actually, just bring up the extension and edit and click on the plus here, done. And it's not nowhere, so let's do it again. Right. And there you can see, there we get our 3 suites that we just wrote live here in this tutorial. And now the nice thing would be if we could actually start our app from here. And there is one way to do that, because as I told you, there is no real connection between your app and the extension. So let's close that, and let me show you a cool thing called URL schemes. And URL schemes are actually pretty useful when it comes to these extensions. So let me just copy our bundle identifier and go to our target here in the Swiffer app. And we'll then go to Info and click on URL types. And we can now add a URL type and give this an identifier, which should be your reversed domain, and we'll just call it Swiffer Today. And what we're now doing actually is defining this URL scheme, which we'll then write in a matter like you'll see in a second. So we will call this scheme Swiffer, and you don't have to change anything here. Role as editor, we don't need an icon or anything. So what we do now is go back to our Today TailView controller, and what we have to do is actually implement the didSelect row at index path method first. So let's do it just here. So let's go TailView didSelect row at index path. No, not will select. TailView didSelect TailView didSelect row at index path. And what we do is nothing special. We just define a URL, which is an NS URL, and now say NS URL with string. And our string is pretty easy. It's Swiffer : // And now we can just write something here like recent. And this is actually our URL scheme. And this opens our hosting app, which we will do by calling extension context, the extension context, and say open URL. And now we can just open our URL. We don't need a completion handler. Come on. So we set nil. We say nil, and when we run this app again, you can see that, let me just log in, 2, 3. When I now open this, maybe I should remove it. This definitely works better on real devices. So if you can, just test this on a real device. So if I now click on any of these suites, we will just get back here. So let's simulate this a little cooler. Going to the home screen, going to photos, and taking a look at this cool photo here. Bring up the notification center and click. And as you can see, we get to our hosting app, and this is really cool, actually. I'm really excited what's going to come in the next few months when this feature is out. So let me know what you're going to do with this feature, and have fun creating your own Today widgets.